What is up, guys? This is Orca Flop, and today I'm coming at you with another video. And today we are going to be reviewing the 2019 IndyCar Grand Prix at the Indianapolis road course. And before I get started with this video, I just want to apologize for this real shitty lighting. I look like you can't even see me, so bear with me on that one. But I'm looking to change it up, so maybe I can in the future. But wow. Let's get straight into this. So, Felix Rosenqvist started off on pole with, I believe it was Scott Dixon who started second. And the race, before going into it, had a 50% chance of rain. It was cloudy all around the track. We didn't really know if they were going to be able to get the race in or if they were going to delay it or not. It was kind of a matter of who's also going to put on the wets or the soft tires, reds, blacks, wets. It was really interesting to start off the race, and we went green, and Felix Rosenqvist led us to the green, and Jack Harvey, who qualified third in that Meyer-Shank Racing Honda, ended up bolting his way up to second, overtaking Scott Dixon, and Rosenqvist launched to a pretty good lead, as everyone kind of scrambled. Pagenaud and Power fell back a little bit at the initial start. Joseph Newgarden was trying to make his way up. Colton Herta was fourth at the time. He was trying to challenge Scott Dixon for that third spot initially, and Jack Harvey was trying to run down Felix Rosenqvist, but Felix Rosenqvist was in that clean air, and he was beginning to pull away a lot. And there were guys like Santino Ferrucci and Bourdais that were battling in the back, and at the initial start, Pato O'Ward thought everyone was going early, and he ended up clipping the back of Alexander Rossi, causing the toe in his tire to go out. And that made Rossi ended up falling back and going about 4 laps down because of repairs. So that happened, and Rossi, who dominated Long Beach only like a couple of weeks ago, I want to say, it was crazy to see that after a little incident like that, he just out immediately. But sucks for Alexander Rossi, especially after coming off such a dominant win at Long Beach. So not probably something you want on your resume. But Pato O'Ward ended up getting a drive-through penalty for the avoidable contact, which I guess was reasonable because Pato O'Ward should have waited a little longer. He shouldn't have thought that they were going immediately. So that, I guess, was reasonable. And Rossi ended up going down pit road for repairs. So both of them kind of tanked in that aspect. I believe Pato went 1 lap down and Rossi went down like 4. But Rosenqvist continued to stretch out his lead until, with about 10 laps in the race, Marcus Ericsson, in the final long turn, ended up getting the car sideways and spinning out and hitting the outside wall really hard. And that brought our first caution of the race. Marcus Ericsson ended up DNFing out of the race as they couldn't repair the wing and the tires. His car was just pretty much mangled. Well, it wasn't mangled, but it was just unrepairable. So Marcus Ericsson ended up proving that, you know, he doesn't belong at Aero Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports. Robert Wickens, where are you? We miss you, Robert. But, yeah, Marcus Ericsson has had such a bad season. Like, he was running in the top 10 before he wrecked, but, like, I don't know, man. Marcus Ericsson just isn't a good driver. He hasn't really been able to prove himself as of late, so it's like, I don't know where I really stand on Marcus Ericsson. Hopefully he does get better. I may or may not make a bump day video, but I don't see him even making the Indy 500 on speed alone. But so Marcus Ericsson DNF, that brought our first yellow, so we kind of everyone kind of restarted at the same spot. Rosenqvist was leading, Jack Harvey second, Scott Dixon third. No one went into pit so far except for the drivers who had damage like Rossi and Pato O'Ward. So not too much strategy from this point. But we restarted, and Scott Dixon got a lightning restart down the straightaway, blowing by Jack Harvey and putting so much pressure on Rosenqvist. It allowed Rosenqvist to lock up his brakes and get past for third and first, or for second and first. And then Colton Herta ended up getting tagged in the back by, I don't know if it was Will Power or not. It might have been Will Power. I don't remember, but he ended up spinning out in the first corner, and then Ryan Hunter-Reay also ended up spinning out and hit Colton Herta. So that brought out another yellow as Ryan Hunter-Reay and Colton Herta wrecked. The race at this point was getting really crazy, and now we were really worrying about is the weather when is the weather going to show up? So that was really crazy, and Colton Herta ended up DNFing out of the race. I don't know why. I guess the car might have stalled out. That's what I'm assuming happened. But other than that, I really don't know what happened to Colton Herta. I just think that the car might have stalled out. So Colton Herta, sadly, with a top 5 run early in the race, ended up DNFing. So that really sucks for him. And it's going to hurt him in the points as well, especially after... It just seems like Colton Herta's had a bit of a chain on his leg after winning Circuit of the Americas a couple months ago. And then Ryan Hunter-Reay ended up staying in the race. It didn't seem like he got too much wing damage, but he really wouldn't make his way back up from here on out. So Ryan Hunter-Reay kind of just stayed in the back and didn't really have enough speed to charge towards the front. And honestly, all the Andretti cars didn't really seem to have speed yesterday, and it just seemed like they were kind of at an off hill. We didn't really know what to expect out of them because it just seemed like they were slow the majority of the race. Like Zach Veach couldn't get going, Rossi couldn't, especially after getting hit by a Ward. Hunter-Reay didn't have much speed. Marco Andretti is also always slow, so what you gonna do? But we went green again. Scott Dixon got another lightning restart to the lead. Rosenquist ended up falling back, and the Ed Carpenter racing car started to come out of their shell as Ed Jones made a run towards second after passing Rosenquist for second. Jack Harvey was... this race was the story of the small teams. Jack Harvey for Meyershank Racing was running second behind Dixon. Rosenquist ended up falling back a lot after Ed Jones passed him for third. Spencer Pickett was making his way up, and so was the man who hasn't been having many good weeks lately this season. Simon Pagenaud was undoubtedly the best Penske car. He was making his way up to 6th. Sebastian Bourdais and Santino Ferrucci were making aggressive moves in the back. They're nearly wrecked. A lot of great battling with them and Will Powers. Will Powers seemed to... his car seemed to be really loose. So Will Power continued to fall back as Santino Ferrucci and Bourdais made their way up through the field. And it just seemed like you had such a variety of cars, and the small teams really started to rise up, and they got faster over the course of the race. So that was really entertaining to watch. And as we continued, Scott Dixon continued to pull from that lead, and then we got on such a long green flag run since the last caution. We had some interesting pit strategies. So nothing really changed. Jones, Jack Harvey ended up going to pit road. And at this point, everyone's wondering when the rain is going to hit. They're kind of gambling. You had guys like Pat O'Ward and Joseph Newgarden and James Hinchcliffe. They were on a totally different strategy from the rest of the field. They stayed out a little bit longer than everybody else. And they tried to see if they could gamble and make their way longer and have a longer stint. So when Dixon, Rosenquist, Ed Jones, and Jack Harvey all went to pit road, they went and they took slick tires so they could have the run towards the end. Whereas Joseph Newgarden, Pat O'Ward, and James Hinchcliffe ended up staying out. And also Matthias Laced, who hasn't really been good since 2018 St. Petersburg. He was making a 4th place run with O'Ward, Hinchcliffe, and Newgarden. As Newgarden was like leading the way, he was leading laps because they were trying to stay out longer, see if they could catch a caution and then take slick tires. So they were trying to pull a strategy, but eventually they had to go into pit road, and then Dixon, Jack Harvey, Ed Jones took back the lead of the race, and they took command. And nothing really happened in this portion of the race except for Simon Pagenaud was making his way into the top 5 after getting by Spencer Pickett and Ed Jones. He was up there with Jack Harvey. Simon Pagenaud, over the course of this stint of the race, rallied his way up to 3rd. And the other top 3 was Dixon, Jack Harvey, and Simon Pagenaud. So this is getting really, really good. And it seemed like over the course of this run, Scott Dixon was wearing his tires out. And because Dixon was wearing his tires out, Jack Harvey ended up running down Scott Dixon, and so was Simon Pagenaud. And they ended up catching up to Dixon really quickly. And Jack Harvey nearly took the lead, but Simon Pagenaud ended up passing Harvey for second before Harvey could get by Dixon. So that held them back a little bit. Then they had to go back and pit again, and then Newgarden, Pagenaud, and Pat O'Ward. And Hinchcliffe ended up leading again in the race. So they ended up leading for a long stint. And then the rain started to pour down a bit heavier, and I believe Takuma Sato ended up running off the track into the grass a couple times. And Graham Rahal was always sneaking his way into the top 10. But then the rain started pouring down, and everyone was like, well, do we stay on the slicks or do we want to go on the wets? The first one that went on the wets was Tony Kanaan. He felt like that the rain was going to start picking up, that he'd be the safest in going on the wets. And then Helio Castroneves also making his first IndyCar start for this year at least. He ended up taking wet tires, and this is the game changer, because at this point Newgarden, Pato O'Ward, and Hinchcliffe were still leading. And as Helio Castroneves left pit road, he spun his tires and ended up spitting out in the sand in turn 2. And he ended up stalling his car out, bringing out our third caution of the race. And this is allowing Newgarden, Pato O'Ward, and Hinchcliffe to go into pit road. I believe actually they might have already been on pit road, but as to where Dixon, Pagenaud, and Harvey already pitted, but they had to go in again, and it kind of cycled out as the rain was starting to come down harder, and everyone was putting on their wet tires. So as everyone was putting on their wet tires, it cycled out to be Dixon in the lead, Harvey second, Matheus Leist, I think, was third, and then Simon Pagenaud was fourth. So Pagenaud got held up a little bit, but we went green flag for the final time in this race. I forgot to mention that I think Felix Rosenqvist was having fuel cell issues, because twice in a row after him getting out of his pit stall, the car lit on fire, and the fuel cell seemed to be lighting on fire. And thank God it wasn't an issue for Rosenqvist, because it could have very well been more disastrous, and thank God it wasn't for him. But that was good to see for him. And we go green again. Dixon leads us to the green. Jack Harvey second. Matheus Leist, I believe, was third now, and Simon Pagenaud fourth. Simon Pagenaud, over the course of the last stint of the race, was the fastest car on track. He ended up getting by Matheus Leist for third, and coming down to these final 10 laps, you could see the water spray from the rear of the cars, and I thought it was going to make it harder to pass since drivers have water going into their eyes, but actually it made the race really, really good. And Simon Pagenaud ended up wheeling around the outside of Matheus Leist. Leist tried to fight back, and for these last 10 laps, it had me on the edge of my seat, and I think it had a lot of people on the edge of their seat, as Simon Pagenaud was tracking down Jack Harvey, and he ended up passing Jack Harvey for second, and Simon Pagenaud used up all of his push to pass on Jack Harvey. He had about 2 seconds left once he got into second past Harvey, and he was trailing down Dixon. Pagenaud had no push to pass left, but I think Pagenaud was just better on the brakes as to where Dixon had more power down the straightaways. And because the IndyCar road course has so many braking lines, Pagenaud was able to use that to his advantage and not have to use the push to pass in order to catch Dixon down the long straights. And every single lap, Pagenaud would go from 6 to 4 seconds, to 3, to 2, to 1. And then as soon as you know it, with 2 to go, Simon Pagenaud, or 3 to go, Simon Pagenaud caught up to Scott Dixon right on his tail, and he was working him over. Dixon began to use up his push to pass. At this point, he had about 15 seconds left, and he had 35 before Pagenaud caught it. So you could tell Dixon was using it to his advantage. But it wasn't enough, as with 2 to go, Simon Pagenaud made the move of the race that had me on the edge of my seat. Around the carousel, him and Scott Dixon were wheel to wheel, and on the outside, Pagenaud whipped around Scott Dixon as Dixon nearly went off track, and they were wheel to wheel, beating and banging for a little bit. And Simon Pagenaud ended up taking the lead with no push to pass left, and with 1 lap to go, it wasn't enough for Dixon, and Simon Pagenaud, another predictable winner, as it was a Penske car, and Pagenaud's won the IndyCar Grand Prix before. But Pagenaud wins the IndyCar Grand Prix at Indianapolis, putting himself a little bit more towards the championship hunt. Scott Dixon came in second. Jack Harvey got a podium and got third. So that is awesome for Meyer-Shank Racing. And seeing as how they're a small team, to be on podium, I think that meant a lot, especially since Jack Harvey is running part-time this season. So that was really impactful, I think, for Meyer-Shank Racing. So that was really cool to see an underdog get a podium. What a drive by Simon Pagenaud. I haven't seen Pagenaud drive like that in so long, and I've kind of been missing it. Shout out to my friend Race Day 2011, who is a Simon Pagenaud fan. I'm sure you loved to see Pagenaud rally his way through the field and take this win at Indianapolis road course. And I think it's pretty easy to say that this was by far the greatest IndyCar Grand Prix of all time. The rain played a factor. There was many passing through the field. You had constant battles in the middle of the pack. You had crazy wrecks. You had strategy with the rain tires and wet tires. And you had a great finish between two veterans who have been in the IndyCar for a while, and they ended up putting on a show in the end with one of the best finishes in the IndyCar Grand Prix. In fact, probably the best finish for the IndyCar Grand Prix. So this whole race kept me on the edge of my seat, and it was constant action through the field. I was just so pleased to see Simon Pagenaud actually be able to drive like that again, because I think we've been missing this out of Pagenaud, especially since the Universal Aero Kit came out. I don't think he's, of all the Penske cars, I think he's kind of been the slowest to adjust to it. So I think by those means, it was really nice to see Simon Pagenaud come back and finally win a race again. You could tell how happy he was in victory lane 2. Dixon finished second. He dominated the race, led the most laps. But in the end, it wasn't enough for Simon Pagenaud, who put on probably the most impressive drive I've seen Pagenaud do, especially without having any push to pass. So that was awesome to see Simon Pagenaud do that, and I'm so happy he won. Jack Harvey finishing third. The underdog got a podium. That was probably the best car I think Meyer Shank has ever brought to the track in general. So a great month of May for the top 5 finishers in general. Will Power, I think, struggled. Joseph Newgarden kind of had to gamble on strategy in order to make something out of it. I was really surprised Will Power didn't do better than I thought he would do. He was my pick to win. I just guess they might have missed the setup on it, but Simon Pagenaud, I mean, again, it's an all bets are off winner, but I think in the end it was cool to see a drive like that from Simon Pagenaud and an awesome finish with Scott Dixon. So in the end, congrats to Simon Pagenaud and Team Penske. I mean, yeah, they won another IndyCar Grand Prix, big deal. But in the end, I thought it was a really good finish, and it was an awesome way to start the month of May for IndyCar. And this race gets a 9 out of 10 for me. The race was great. I mean, there were the stint with Newgarden, Pat O'Ward, and Hinchcliffe constantly swapping the strategy position. That was a little boring. But other than that, I think the race kept me on the edge of my seat, and I didn't know what was going to happen. So what an awesome finish to an IndyCar race, and what a race in general. It kept me on the edge of my seat, and I think a lot of people would agree that this was the best IndyCar Grand Prix of all time. Now, like David Land said, if it could rain every year for this race, maybe we'll get a race like this every single week or every single year. So now it's kind of a debate whether we should take it off the schedule or not. But anyway, congrats to Team Penske and Simon Pagenaud on winning this year's IndyCar Grand Prix. It was a fantastic 9 out of 10 race, and I can't wait for the rest of the month of May. I believe Bump Day is Tuesday. I don't know when Carb Day is, but got a lot to look forward to within the IndyCar world in the month of May. So I can't wait for it, and I'll see if I can make more videos for you guys for that. So 9 out of 10 race. Congratulations to Simon Pagenaud on winning this race, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.